Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. We're going to talk Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Ripple. We're also going to look at Neo, OmiseGo, and a handful of others. So let's get to it. So since the last week, we've had some interesting rotations. Look at all these names from back in the day, right? I mean, back in the day, meaning like a few months ago. So it's like we're getting rotation every week. We get different set of cryptos that just want to pop here. So in the last week, we've seen Dash break out from 200 to basically went to 300. We've seen Ripple here in the last couple days bottom out around 14 cents, now 28 cents. Monero on rumors, and well, not rumors, more news of it being added to exchanges, and that took it from $48, $50 clear up to $90, $100 before it pulled back. So just some incredible moves here recently in some of these names that have really been doing nothing for the last couple of months. So it looks like a lot of these are bottoming out and moving up and pretty strongly. So if we look at the coin market cap, we are now at $150 billion. So we've had quite the gain since the August 1st fork. If we look at that on August 1st, market cap was $93 billion. So we've added quite a bit since then. If you look at just the altcoin market cap, I mean, that was at 45 billion on August 1st, and we are now at 82 billion. So has been a huge move in essentially 3 weeks. And so things are just very strong. I always look at this Bitcoin dominance picture here to see, not so much what the other ones are on the list, but more to see how Bitcoin is doing. I just tend to think it caps out around 50% or so. So when I see it spike up to that, I expect a little move in some of the altcoins. Right now we are at 45%. So some of the other altcoins are really moving up, but overall market cap, $150 billion. So let's take a look at some of the charts here. We'll get back to this one here. Let's go to Bitcoin first. So Bitcoin had a nice little shakeout here and has been pretty resilient on that bounce. So if we zoom in on this 4-hour chart here, last couple days, the last two videos I was talking about this little bit of weakness I was seeing in Bitcoin. Sure enough, we had a pullback that ended at 3,800 or so. Then we bounced nicely, actually overshot the old high. And if you guys remember me telling you in the last video, we've been seeing the RSI trend lower. So that was a divergence to the old high, non-confirming. And sure enough, we pulled back again, held that 3,900 zone again, bounced, made a lower high. Then we saw a pretty sharp pullback, very sharp, very quick. But the bounce was surprisingly strong. I mean, we went from 3,600 clear up to 4,100 in just half a day. I mean, it's just a very strong bounce. Right now, we're starting to see some resistance forming here at this $4,100, $4,200 mark on Bitcoin. So, going to want to watch for that. It's now starting to live below some of the longer moving averages on the 4-hour chart. On the daily, still looks fine. I mean, if you look at the daily chart, I mean, just basically pulled back to that 30 EMA. Nice bullish reversal candle here with a lot of volume coming in. So, every time Bitcoin seems to pull back, it's just met with a lot of buying. Right now, that's a good sign. We're going to want to see it to clear that 41, 4,200 area with some strength and maybe make some new highs after that. So keep an eye on it. So far, the daily chart just looks fine. I mean, it has these pullbacks and these quick drops, but nothing to worry about. I think this big pullback we saw here in the last day was actually a pretty good little washout. It's kind of reset some of the overbought signals. So it looks like we're starting to move up. Again, I'm going to want to see that Bitcoin Cash. So let's take a look at that one. I was trading that here over the last couple of days. Has since been pulling back. And looking at the 4-hour chart, it's been pretty constructive pullback. And just the volume you can see here is coming in really tight. Looked like it wanted to move earlier today. It's pulling back again. So right now, this is actually a pretty decent setup. Nice little re-entry points on the bounce here. You're looking at this 30 EMA hold right here, and then again it's basically sitting right out there. So we're going to want to watch those levels hold, and maybe it just continues to consolidate here. If it starts to break out, first move I'd look for this 0.17, maybe even 0.18 if you want to be safe, and then beyond that, this is really a a key area to want to watch here, this 0.18, 0.19 area. And if it can get above those two levels, I mean, you might see another really big move. And I was surprised at how high this ran. So if you guys remember me talking about it, you know, I was looking at it here when it did this big candle and jumped on board. And, you know, my two targets were 550 and 800. And I was thinking 800 was a long shot and just really ran it up. And, I mean, if we look at the USDT, this thing basically went almost to 900 or just barely over it before pausing. So powerful move up. Now it's kind of pulling back, consolidating a little bit here. But this might be another potential entry to see if it has another run again. Volume on the downside has been pretty low, so keep an eye on that one. So let's take a look at Ethereum. So I was talking Ethereum and I was feeling bullish on Ethereum here, and I still am personally. So we had some pretty interesting action here. So my last video I was talking about how I believe Ethereum was going to start outperforming Bitcoin, and it was really tightening up here at that time. So I started to accumulate some of that here in this level here, and sure enough we had this nice pop, and that took it all the way up to 340 plus. But then it had this sharp reversal down. A lot of selling showed up there, and when Bitcoin sold off here in the last day, Ethereum went all the way back down to 280s. Recovered nicely, but has been an interesting pattern when you look at the 4-hour chart. You don't like to see these big breakouts with this big reversal. That's typically a bearish sign, but you know, this was a big support candle and it just moved right back above the moving averages. So I'm still holding it, and I'm still holding to my premise that I mentioned, that I think it's going to start outperforming. And when I talked about that in my last video, this is where it was at. So it was sitting here, and I was mentioning that I believe this bottomed, this low around, you know, 0.07 essentially has held several times, and I think that is the low versus Bitcoin. Gonna want to see it be a little stronger here, but so far the way I'm playing this is this was a big breakout. It's pulled back. It's starting to hold these moving averages. Looks like it's wanting to bounce off here. So until that kind of comes back down to these lower levels, I'm going to just keep holding my Ethereum position versus Bitcoin. I still think it's going to start outperforming here. And, you know, versus the dollar, it's not bad. It's kind of been some volatile a little bit here and there, but looking like it wants to start moving up here. I'd like to see more volume, though. Volume's definitely weak on that bounce here to the upside. And, you know, with this selling that showed up around 240, 250, that's going to really be a key area to get above if we're going to start to see this rally have legs. That correlates back to some of the resistance back here that we saw. So you can see this resistance here correlates with that little zone there that sold off. If we can get above that, then the next level to look for is this 375 or so, 370 area. And above that, I mean, we're basically right knocking on the door of all-time highs, and that's certainly in the realm of possibility. I mean, from where we're at now, that's, you know, 25-30%. So it's not a huge move, relatively speaking. I mean, that's a huge move, but it's not, you know, compared to some of these other ones that are running. We're there, so that's certainly doable. And for now, I'm going to maintain my position in Ethereum. I'm holding that and start accumulating here. And I think some of this pullback might have offered a separate opportunity. But again, that 340 area is going to be a key area to watch on Ethereum. So let's take a look at Ripple. So Ripple yesterday put in a low, a very good low, and we pretty much broke this downtrend that Ripple's been in for a long time. If we go to Poloniex, you can see it better there. Yeah, so you can see where it had this huge run and just has been in this long, steady consolidation to the downside since peaking in mid-May. And has really been nothing to do. And that all changed yesterday. I know there's been rumor and more news. And, you know, I saw that big pop and got on around 18 cents and just kind of rode this up. My target was 26 cents. Hit that today, took profits, but you know, it kept going up. It was peaking around 28, 29 cents. Just super strong. I would not expect or not be surprised to see a pullback here. That certainly would be expected, but very strong action, huge volume. Look at that volume. I mean, just the conviction behind this move. So depending on where you got in, I know some of you guys were saying you got in around 15 and 16, so I'd probably be holding if I got in it that early, but you know, it doesn't hurt to take some profits here and there. Certainly a pullback would be normal. If you look at the daily chart, you know, that's just really strong right there. I mean, you're seeing this strong move up 3 days in a row. The 10 EMA is way down here, though, around 20 cents. So would be good if it just kind of paused here a little bit and flagged out. But definitely a strong one right now. So Ripple on the move, and you know, I think a little pause here, probably going to start and keep going up. You can get above that 31, 32 cent area, which has been resistance multiple times here in the past. You can get above that. We'll be looking at old highs again. So pretty nice for Ripple. If you guys have been holding that for that whole time, your day has finally come. So Neo. So Neo's been pausing, had this big run up. This is the daily on the Neo chart here, and the volume on the selling has been very constructive. So I'm liking that. You can see here that the volume has just kind of been going down, very quiet the last several days, and the action is just getting really tight. I mean, look at how narrow the bodies of those candles are. It's just been trading in a very tight manner here recently. Had this big dip with a big reversal. Took it down to about 0.075. That's really been the low. 0.08 is where it needs to be holding right now. But I'm watching this. It still feels a little bit bearish. You know, you're kind of seeing this steady downtrend here. I don't like that. I do like the volume action though, so that's encouraging that the selling has been very constructive. Not any big volume selling, so that's good. If we zoom in a little bit though and look at the 4-hour chart, you know, you're still seeing the moving averages all inverted, right? The shorter ones are below the next one and so forth. You're seeing the 50 kind of turn around here. So I'd like to see that clear. And the levels I'm going to be watching here, I mean, if this thing flattens out a little bit, just keep an eye on that. You know, 0.01 really is the level you're going to want to see it get back above. That's going to show some good conviction here. And if we can get back above that level, I think we're going to start marching forward. But, you know, just watching, it's just really weird to see this volume just really dry up here, and not a lot of selling, which is a good sign. The low to look for here though is this big low that it put in. I'm optimistic that was the low. That's certainly correlated with, you know, that 0.08 level that was first level. So I'm optimistic that was the low, but we're getting close to it again. So let's see if we can pop above here. Again, if any volume comes in, you're going to see a pretty big move one way or the other. If it breaks down, just the next level I'd be looking for is this 30 EMA, which is starting to creep up, and that's now around 0.74. And so that would just barely undercut that low we had a few days back. So that would make some sense there, and then that might set up a good washout and then a move higher. So I'm liking the action in Neo. Longer term is still one of my top choices. If I had to pick something to hold, say I couldn't sell for a year or two, Neo would certainly be in one of those. OmiseGo, let's take a look at this one here. So, you know, on the daily, this one still has a very strong chart pattern. The 10 EMA is starting to really tighten up against this, and again too, the volume here, look at the volume just really tightening up, just really dropping on the sell side here. So not a lot of selling going on this volume. You can see that volume just pretty much done. That's good sign. You're going to want to see this level taken out. Has had a lot of trouble just breaking above these recent highs. So it just looks like it's pausing here, consolidating a little bit. If we go zoom in a little bit on the 4-hour though, you know, it's just, you're seeing some selling to the downside here. On the closer chart, the 4-hour, it just kind of looks a little bit more volatile, but it is forming this nice little ascending triangle pattern. So as long as that pattern still holds, you know, you can give it some more room to the downside here, but as long as this general pattern holds, pretty good constructive setup. I'm still liking OmiseGo. I think this pattern certainly has a bullish slant to it. So on the upside, these are the levels I'm watching, but it's still a ways out from the breakout zone. I mean, even from this point, if it were just to get to these highs that it's had trouble getting to, I mean, that's a good 15-16% just to get to that point. So before we even break out, we would have a pretty decent rally at that point. It's at the lower end of the pattern here, so this could be a good early entry position because your risk reward is pretty good. I mean, on the downside, you don't have to give it a whole lot. before you can stop out. I mean, if it were me, I'd be giving it maybe 10% on that, you know, just below this, in case it does one of these little shoots down and then pops back up. So that's what I'd be looking at. I am holding some OmiseGo. I'm liking this setup here, but again, I'm going to keep a tight stop on this one. If it starts to break down, I'm going to just wait and let it set up again. So some of you guys have been asking me about TenX. When is this going to bottom out? So let's take a look at the daily. It has this nice little setup right now, just pulling in. I'd be looking for a bottom right around this 30 EMA, which also correlates to a bottom it had here recently. You can see the little tails on these candles, and so that'd be the lows I'd be looking at here. We're kind of forming this little downtrend right now, and so until that's broken, probably nothing to do with that. So I'd be looking for a break above this, and you know, if it correlates with this low here, then that's going to be a good sign. Or if it correlates with this 30 EMA. Again, just like some of the other ones, the volume on the downside has been constructive, but you know, you have this big selling bar up here. That's going to be big resistance to get over. Huge reversal candles. So you can see that long wick at the top, red candle body, and just the volume that came in. That was all selling. So that was just profit taking from this big move up. And now we're consolidating. Following multiple moves up like that, I mean, that was, you know, from August 5th, you know, you had a couple days that took it over 100%. Paused for a few days, and then it went up another 100+%. So it's going to just need time to digest some of that move. I like TenX long term. I like the project. I think they've got a lot of potential. They've got a good team, and so I'm going to be watching this one. If it starts to bottom out here and looks like it wants to reverse, that might be a good potential entry on TenX. Another one that's similar to TenX is Monaco. And so Monaco here, similar, had these very sharp moves to the upside. These are actually much bigger than TenX, but this is a smaller cap name. And so this first pump here, you know, it peaked out around 300% almost before pulling back pretty sharply, but then had another big run up here from this point up, 500% in 2 days. So just some crazy move up. Not unusual to see it kind of just flag out and pause here, but smaller cap name. So when the volume comes in, it really pushes these names up. And so you're seeing the volume really dry up here, kind of really tightening up. I'm liking that action. That 10 EMA on the daily is really catching up here. If we zoom in on the 4-hour chart, you know, it's trying, right? It looked like it was trying to get out above today, bouncing it, pulling back here a little bit. So what I'm going to be watching is this level right here. If it can close above this level, which we're really close to that already. I mean, we're only at this point 12% above, 11% above. So if we can get above that, you might see another run up on this one. And you know, it kind of makes sense because you're seeing these moving averages to really start to catch up here, and that's generally, once they all consolidate like that, you tend to see those breakouts. So watching Monaco. Monaco has a similar project to TenX, cryptocurrency, debit card. And I think there's certainly a use case for that, and there's several of these. You know, you've got Token, and you've got a couple other projects that are similar, and some of these are going to win out, and these have live products already that they're starting to ship out here soon. So I think these have some more room to run. Not there yet. Has tried a couple of times to start outperforming Bitcoin, pulling in a little bit here, but it just continues to be met with selling every time it rallies up. And if you look at Litecoin versus the dollar, let's go to the GDAX and look at that one. That one's actually, let's go here, Bitfinex. So if we go to the daily, I still like the daily chart of Litecoin. I mean, just really tight action, still trending up. I mean, can't complain about that. But certainly versus Bitcoin and some of the other altcoins, grossly has been underperforming for the last month and a half or so. But I keep thinking it's done, it's going to start outperforming. Just has not shown that conviction yet. So, you know, if we can get into the $50 range, that's going to be good. It's just every time it tries, it just seems to hit resistance there. So that's the level I'm watching, but it's actually setting up pretty good. I mean, you know, on the dollar basis, I mean, you're seeing it tighten up here and it's trending up. So you have a pretty low risk entry here. If you look at the downside, I mean, anything below $43, $42, and really that's your signal just to get out of the way and let it set up again. But If we can get above that $49, $50 mark, Litecoin might start running again and test those old highs, which are only $55, $56. So I don't see that would be much of a resistance point if we can finally clear that 50 mark. So that's going to be it for now, guys. And look out for that newsletter. I'm going to send out an update with some of my top picks, my top setups right now. I'll probably send out like the top 5 that I'm looking at. Till next time, take care.